talking here today may be very new to you. Some of these things may seem to be a little controversial, but just bear with me, and in the end probably I'll be able to convince you that this is a good idea for joint preservation. So if you talk about meniscus root tears, it is a very common thing. It is about 4 to 5% of total orthoscopic procedures. Very commonly you see posterior medial root tears and posterior lateral root tears. Now the patient group varies. The medial side tears are more common in middle-aged persons, typically associated with early onset of osteoarthritis, whereas the lateral meniscus root tears are more commonly seen with ACL injuries primarily. So when you have an ACL injury, there may be a concomitant injury to the meniscus root. Now this is very important. Subchondral edema, that is a very important thing. Earlier this pathology was called as a SPONC lesion, spontaneous osteonecrosis of the knee, and now most of these cases of SPONC lesion are actually not SPONC lesion, but they are actually lesions due to root tear. Because when there is a root tear, the meniscus becomes a dysfunctional meniscus from a functional meniscus. So when earlier the meniscus was doing its work, the work of meniscus is basically to absorb the force. It's like a cushion. So once there is a root tear, the meniscus becomes sort of a dysfunctional meniscus. There are many studies which have proven that a root tear is actually equivalent to a total meniscectomy, because the meniscus will slide out or extrude off the joint. So when this happens, you have a overloading on the bone. So there is, when the patient is bearing weight, there is a bone-to-bone contact and bone-to-bone wear, which progresses with time and which leads to degeneration. And so if there is a tear and the patient is walking, there will be a higher acute onset overload on the medial femoral condyle that will present to you hyperintensity on the MRI. So people used to read it as a SPONC lesion when this diagnosis, this pathology was not discovered. Now another important thing is, whenever you see an MRI, this MRI is a supine picture. Whenever you take an MRI and you see the MRI, that is a supine picture. And if you see the extrusion on MRI, this extrusion is bound to increase when the patient is walking because it is in standing position. So if supposedly you have an extrusion about 3 to 4 millimeters on MRI, probably you imagine it to be about 6 to 7 millimeters on a standing or a walking thing, because MRI is a supine thing, and when the patient will bear weight, the extrusion is bound to increase. So a natural history of 12 months. So this is a patient who had an injury to the root, and it progresses approximately 1 year with a uni. So it has got a rapid onset of progression. These patients, if left untreated, will progress very fast. So if on a prognostic basis, if you see your patients and if you can see root tears in them, and if they are not supposedly addressed at a proper time, then you will see that it is a poor prognostic factor for progression of osteoarthritis. So these are the subgroup of your patient who will progress faster in osteoarthritis as compared to a routine degenerative arthritis without a root tear. So conservative treatment or meniscectomy usually will have a good risk of conversion to a total knee replacement. So this is basically the pathophysiology. This is literally debated, but usually a root tear will lead to extrusion, which leads to a loss of shock absorbing forces, which leads to an increased tibiofemoral contact pressure leading to arthritis. Now some people put this in the reverse way. So it can be an extrusion which leads to a secondary root tear, but that doesn't matter. But this is basically the pathophysiology, that this pathology itself is a poor prognostic factor as far as the progression of osteoarthritis in a particular knee is concerned, specifically for the medial side. So arthritis in a knee, we know, is a irreversible phenomenon. You must have heard about an article in JAMA very long back, which has labeled arthroscopy as a sham surgery. So there is an article in JAMA which says that you do arthroscopy, and if you don't do arthroscopy, they do 2 case control studies, and arthroscopic debridement was done, and 1 case nothing was done, and there was no difference. So they labeled arthroscopy as a sham surgery, that arthroscopy does not have any effect on progression of arthroscopy, and it should not be performed for early osteoarthritis cases. But now with this recent concepts, with the repair techniques evolving, arthroscopy do have a role in this subgroup of subset of patients. Now we know that partial or total meniscectomy is known to cause arthritis. And effectively a root tear is equivalent to a meniscectomy because the meniscus which is remaining after the root tear is extruding out and it is not serving the purpose. So many times if you are doing knee replacement surgery, you must be seeing that when you do, you can take out a very good chunk of meniscus. So sometimes the meniscus is too healthy. So technically speaking, if the meniscus is healthy and if it is functional, the arthritis should not set in. But what happens is meniscus is there, whole of the meniscus is there, you can take out a full zone of meniscus, but the meniscus is extruded out because of the root tear and extrusion. So even if it is intact anatomically, it is not serving its basic purpose of the cushioning. So by definition, a meniscus root tear is defined as either a avulsion of the meniscus root from its attachment or it is a posterior horn tear within 1 centimeter of the root attachment. Okay, so anything which reduces the hoop stresses and leads to extrusion, posterior tear is basically a meniscus root tear. Now this is an area. So this is a very important slide as far as anatomy is concerned. You must understand the difference in shape of the two meniscus. The lateral meniscus is a circular structure. The medial meniscus is a semicircular structure. So the two roots of lateral meniscus are closer, whereas the two roots of medial meniscus is far anterior posterior. So this is semicircular, this is circular. And this area is the area where the meniscus is attached on the bone. And supposedly if it is torn here, the meniscus will move out this way. So the meniscus will move out this way. And actually it is not this way, it is this way, but we are coming on to that with some physiology as well. So this tear, which is either here or in this region, if it is a tear, the effect will be by and large the same. The function of the meniscus per se will decrease after this sort of a radial tear in the posterior horn. So either a root tear or a radial tear in the posterior horn will actually have an effect of that the meniscus is not working. So the patient will have a loading of the tibia on the femur, direct loading. So bone to bone loading will be there. Now this is the classification. This classification was given by Laprade. Type 1 is an incomplete radial tear. Type 2A is a complete radial tear. This is within 0 to 3 millimeters. A, B and C. So within 1 centimeter, as I told you, is the root tear, and A, B and C is depending on the how much of the remnant is remaining at the attachment side. Type 3 is a bucket handle with a detachment of the root. Type 4 is a complex oblique or a longitudinal tear. If anybody of you was in PKC, so the surgery we do was a type 4 tear. So type 4 is a root avulsion fracture. Like morning I showed you the lateral side. So lateral root was torn with the bone fragment. So if that the kind of pattern is there, it's a root avulsion fracture. So you can see in this is a partial root tear. This is a complete radial root tear, and you demarcate into 0, 3, 6 and 9, and you can demarcate where the injury is. This is the bucket handle pattern where the root tear is actually going into the bucket handle pattern. This is an oblique pattern of the root, and this is the bone detachment. Okay, so I hope I am clear. Now, the traditional technique of a root repair is a transtibial technique. In transtibial technique, what people do, I also used to do it, that we pass sutures through this meniscus fragment, we drill a tunnel, and then we pull the suture back in and hope that this meniscus fragment will reduce with the pull-out suture, and you can tie it on the tibial cortex either with a button or a suture disc or with a screw, whatever you want. Now, this MRI findings are very important. This is called as a ghost sign. So this is the region where the meniscus should be there, but it is not there now. So this is called as ghost sign, and this is the most posterior image. So you have to see the posterior one here. This is what is extrusion is called. So normally, if you link the upper part of the femur with the lower part of tibia, this meniscus should lie in it. So if you see here, this should lie like this. Okay, and so this much is the extrusion. Okay, so the meniscus is extruded, and this, as I told you, is a supine. So when the patient is walking, this extrusion is bound to increase a little bit. Now again, key MRI findings, you have a ghost sign here. you have a ghost sign here. This is what I was telling you. This is a strong time kind of a picture. This is because of the meniscus extrusion. There is lot of overloading here, which is causing a sponge-like or hyperintensity of the femoral condyle. Here also you can see that there is a hyperintensity. This is because of the overloading. Now this is again an important sign. This is called as a truncation sign. The truncation sign, basically the meniscus, you can see a line, the blackish line which is extending from here to here. This blackish line should extend from here to here. This line is broken. That means this is a root tear. So this is called as a truncation sign. This is a truncation sign. This is again a ghost sign. And that sponge-like feature, sometimes it is on femur, sometimes it is on tibia. You can see the hyperintensity here on the tibia. Okay? Here again on the tibia. And typically you will see right there on the middle aspect, this area. So this you see hyperintensity, that means there is a classical medial overloading on the tibia. So this is again because of the extrusion part. And here you can see again here. You can see the overloading. And here the meniscus on the anterior view, you can see that it is extruded anteriorly also. Not only it is extruded medially, but this is extruded anteriorly also. So this is not exactly medial, but an anterior-medial extrusion. So there are two scenarios you will see in practice. One is a traumatic injury to the meniscus root. This is seen in young patient, active patient with a normal alignment. And then you can have a degenerative root tear, which is sort of a middle-aged lady with factors such as obesity, middle age with varus alignment. And as I told you, sponge lesion is mostly commonly a root tear. So this is the salient features. You will have more commonly a varus alignment, BMI which is more than 30. There is a history of sudden onset posterior knee pain. There will be a popping sensation. The physical examination, there will be extrusion. There will be joint line tenderness. There will be an extrusion on the imaging. If it is more than 3 millimeters, it is suggestive of a root tear. There will be a high signal intensity on the root in the axial picture, and on the sagittal pictures you will have a ghost line. So these are all the important features that you need to take care regarding the root tear. Now if you see here, this is again the area of the attachment of the root. This is the area of the attachment of the root, which is more posterior and more anterior for the medial side and more close to each other on the lateral side. So whenever, the other thing that you must realize here, the shape of the meniscus is more broad on the posterior aspect as compared to the anterior aspect. There is a much broader meniscus you will see on the posterior aspect as compared to anterior aspect. And actually what we have seen is the direction of extrusion is not actually that medial, but the direction of extrusion is actually anteromedial. If any one of you has experience of unicondylar knee, so an Oxford knees. So the Oxford knee, the classical indication they tell is an area in which there is a anteromedial arthritis in this area. So they will say that you must see and check. The classical indication to do a unicompartmental knee replacement surgery is an anteromedial osteoarthritis of the knee with an intact ACL and an intact lateral compartment. So if the ACL is intact and then most of these cases usually start with the root tear, because the root tear will lead to most of the times arthritis on the anteromedial aspect. So the tear is here and the meniscus will actually go extruding this direction, and the bone of the femur will have a direct contact on the bone which is actually underneath the meniscus anteriorly, and this will cause sort of an increase in osteoarthritis. So these are again the pictures. You can see these are the fibers which attach the root to the bone, and this is actually the dissected specimen of the meniscus root from the back. Now ideal indication as per Kim is a patient who is younger than 65 years of age. There is a symmetrical alignment of lower extremity less than 3 degrees of varus. Mild progression of arthritis. Arthritis should not be severe if you want to address it with an arthroscopy. There should be a mild subluxation of meniscus. It should not be a severe subluxation. Now as I told you, traditionally there are two techniques described. One is a transtibial pull-out technique in which you pass sutures, you pull the sutures through the transtibial and you tie it on the tibia. And you can tie it with anything. So this is a transtibial pull-out technique. This is a very commonly used and accepted technique. This technique was popularized by Dr. Laprade. Now the problem with this technique is, one, it is a technique which relies on a very long distance between the area to be fixed and the fixation point. So we want to fix the root, but the fixation point is too far away. So there is a lot of Bungee effect, and this, because of this, there may be loosening, and this root may not be approximately very nicely approximated to the root footprint. So that is one problem. The other problem is you don't have modularity in this option. So you just have to pass suture and tie. That's it. You cannot do other things like a side to side repair or things like that. If you want to change your repair patterns, you will not be able to do that. So for that purpose, the suture anchor repair was developed, and in this technique, the anchor was inserted from the posteromedial portal. But technically, this becomes a very, very difficult surgery, specifically for a beginner, because to insert the anchor on that proper positioning from a posteromedial portal is not an easy job. You need to have a very specific angle, and you need to have a very good knee opening to actually put an anchor into that particular location. It's not an easy job. So again, this technique was not becoming popular. Now, we have defined that, and we have added some things to develop our technique. And this we called it as a meniscus realignment surgery in case of meniscus root tear with extrusion to delay the progression of osteoarthritis. So this is a 40-year-old female. She has a history of pain for 2 years. Specifically, the pain increase on stair climbing and squatting. The intensity of pain increases for the last 2 months, and that can affect her daily activity. There is a posteromedial joint line tenderness. There is no FFD, no coronal pain deformity, and the deep flexion is painful. And if you see the X-ray, and if you go back to your OPD and imagine, so this is a very common X-ray that you will see in your OPD. Every OPD you will see about 3 to 4 patients per day, which will present to you with this sort of X-ray, and you will label them as early or osteoarthritis, and we will be doing all sort of procedure like physiotherapy, occasional injections, PRP, whatever. So this is a very common presentation that you have in your OPD with early, which is called as early osteoarthritis in our practice. And here you can see there is little bit a decrease in the joint space on the medial side. The lateral space is relatively okay. This is relatively a difficult case because, as I told you from history, she has a chronic sort of a tear, and she had symptoms for about 2 years. Okay. And when we do the MRI, you can see that there is a significant extrusion here. That there is a ghost sign which is present here. Now, the options here at this point of time are conservative. You can put injections, you can do arthroscopic debridement, you can do an arthroscopic transtibial root tear, you can do a high tibial osteotomy here, and you can do a unicondylar knee arthroplasty. So all these options are there, but what we have done is something different from everything which is described here. So this is what we did, is called as a root fix technique. So this is a low profile fixation. There is no metal involved in this whole procedure. We address the pathology. The concept is to make the meniscus functional from a non-functional extruded meniscus. This is a all suture implants. The fixation is exactly at the root. The working length is very less, so there is very less Bungee effect. The anchor fixes the root where it is tall. Now this is a surgical video. So if you see, you can appreciate, as I was discussing, that there is an anteromedial arthritis here. So technically, if you go on with the unique eyes, so they will say that this is relative indications, extended indications you can do in this particular case. So there is a anteromedial region of loss of cartilage on the tibia. So here, because this is a chronic case, we are doing a procedure which is more extensive than a root fix anchor alone. So here we are doing a X fix anchor. This is called as an extrusion repair anchor, and this anchor is inserted from a high anteromedial portal here. And this is my first anchor. This is an anti-grade anchor, just like our other anchors. But this anchor has the quality. We have reduced the thread size, so that the knots that we make here are very, very low profile, and that they are not irritant to the cartilage. Okay, so this is how this anchor is different from the conventional all suture anchors which is available in the market. So here you can see that we are passing. Now the next sort of procedure is similar to your Bankart repair. So we are using the sutures sequentially here. We are passing it through the lasso, and sequentially we will be doing one by one passages. So again, this is a double loaded suture. So we have 4 limbs. All the 4 limbs are passed sequentially, almost at the level of the menisco-capsular junction. Okay. So all the 4 threads are now passed like this. This is the first anchor. This is a first anchor which we have put for the meniscus extrusion. As I told you, this is a relatively extended indication for us as well. So we didn't want to take a chance. So we are putting more anchors. So this is the second anchor that we put, and this second anchor is relatively anterior to the first anchor. And with that also we are putting anchors. We are passing all the 4 sutures sequentially. So once we have passed all the 8 sutures from these 2 anchors, we will be tying these anchors back onto the meniscus. So by doing this, you will see that this chondral defect which was there is relatively covered. So this meniscus will actually give some protection to this sort of a chondral lesion, specifically if the patient is walking or bearing weight. So what we want to do is we want to bring the meniscus inside. We want it. This is basically an anti-extrusion stitches that we are placing. So one by one we are placing it. This is the first, this is the second, third and fourth. So 4 stitches in all to reduce the extrusion. Once we are done with that, now we are focusing our attention to the root. Here you can see that this root is badly torn. The condition of the meniscus is also posteriorly it is not good. And now we are putting a root repair jig here, and we are passing the wire. Now this system has an inbuilt, the root fix anchor system has an inbuilt set. So what it will do is you put a bead pin there. After that there is a long spinal needle. You can put in the same hole, and over that hole you can railroad the metal nitinol wire, which can be railroaded over the loop-in suture. So this is everything is available inside the set itself, and then you pull the loop-in set. The only thing you need to take care here is after loop-in you load the root fix anchor like this. This is the point where you have to stop, and then you have to apply artery on the anterior part, because this is a unidirectional anchor. If you pull it very hard, the anchor will come out of the tibia. So you have to put an artery anteriorly so that it will go only 2 centimeters, 1 to 2 centimeters deep, and not more than that. So this is an important step, putting an artery on the anterior part of the portal. So once it is deployed, you can see that these are 4 anchors, and you can sequentially pass sutures through the meniscus here. So you have to pass anchors sequentially here, one anchors here, and by that actually here this repair that we are doing is called as a Mason-Allen repair. So Mason-Allen repair means you put 3 knots, 3 passages of the sutures, and one is a simple suture. So this is a simple suture. So we close it, the meniscus will repair its come at its own position, it will reduce at its own position, and then we will repair the side to side. So it is like this. It's a cross kind of a repair. This is called as Mason-Allen repair. So one repair like this and one repair like this. So this is the final construct, and we will cut the threads after that. So very nicely done. We have put 3 sutures. Everything has been done in a very nice place. But as I told you, this was a relatively extended indication. We went further because there was some extrusion on the posterior middle side as well. So again we put one anchor, root fix anchor on the posterior middle aspect as well, and we put a anchor there. So this is again the root fix anchor we have passed. So if you see the surface of the tibia, the posterior 40% you can address with a root fix anchor, and the anterior 60% you can address by using a extrusion repair anchor. Okay, so by this again we use the same anchor. The anchor goes, the anchor locks into the cavity. The threads are remaining outside, and then we can just pass the suture slowly there, and after that we will just close it up. Okay, so all the 4 sutures are passed. In a way, what we want is we want to pull the meniscus back into its own position, prevent the extrusion, so that we hope that this meniscus functions a little bit, And our goal here is to actually increase the longevity of this knee. We have a good number of these patients we have operated, and realistically we see the patient will come into the follow-up in about 6 months, 1 year, and they'll say that they are around 60 to 70% better as far as the pain part is concerned, and typically the walking has become much more comfortable as compared to the pre-op status. So this is the final picture. We have put 1, 2, 3 and 4 anchors, a circumferential repair to reduce the extrusion and to repair the root, and after that we are doing a little bit of microfracture here to increase the blood circulation in this particular area of the because this area again is actually in the direct contact of the bone to bone, but here when we have done extrusion repair, a little bit of loading on this particular portion will be reduced. Now the other important thing is the bad pattern of root tears can be addressed. So if you have a root tear like a radial tear, you can do a side-to-side repair also. So you put one anchor here, and you put one anchor here, one suture here, and one suture here, and do a side-to-side closure like this, which is not possible in the transtipio technique. So a bad type of tear, type 2, types 2C, 2B, where you have some sort of a remnant which is remaining, you can pass sutures into that remnant and repair that as well. So this is the pre-op picture of this patient. This is the post-op picture. You can see that very significant extrusion was there. Very significant extrusion in the root there. A lot of large truncation sign was there here, and this is much better here. And you can see the anchor here. You can see this area. This is the area of the anchor. The anchor is there, and the root is much better sitting as compared to here. Here there is a large gap. Here there is a very small gap, and this is also a hyperintensity. This may be because of the hip, so it is reduced a lot. You can see the extrusion is also very much improved. The other thing, you can see hyperintensity here on the medial aspect. Here, that is due to overloading, medial overloading. Here in follow-ups, the meniscus is much better inside, and there is no hyperintensity here. This is around 4 months follow-up. So the patient does not have a hyperintensity here, so there is not much of medial overloading at present. So again, this is pre-op and post-op. This is the ghost sign, and the ghost sign is relatively better now. This is the ghost sign, and this is the meniscus. So meniscus was not well seen here. Here you can see the meniscus nicely. This is the anchor you can see on the MRI images. This black one is actually the anchor, which you can see. And this axial scan, you can actually see all the 4 anchors. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All the 4 anchors are seen. And as I told you, these patients will almost have a consistent 60 to 70% pain relief in the condition that they come to us. So overall, by far now, we have started doing this surgery around 2 years back, and so far in this short-term follow-up, we have not revised any patient to a total knee or something like that so far. And most of our patients are, I will not say excellent, but they are into good to very good range. And approximately, as I told you, 70% and happy. Most of our patients are happy patients. So this is what this root fix anchor is about. Any questions?
So sometimes in patients whom you do a knee arthroscopy for early arthritis, whether it be a root repair or anything, but 1 month, in fact, immediately post-op, after the arthroscopy, they are fine. For 2 weeks or so, 3 weeks, they are fine. And then usually around 3 to 4 weeks, 1 month, that's when they come back with a swollen knee and pain and posterior knee pain.
So this is this is because of mostly arthritis. This is basically the JAMA paper. So if you treat your arthroscopic debridement patient and a partial medial meniscectomy patients, if you see these patients, 2 groups, non-operated and operated, and you compare it at a period of about 1 year, they are equal. So that's why they say the JAMA group, they say that it's a placebo surgery. There is no role of doing arthroscopy in these patients because after 1 year, either you do it or you don't do it, the results are same. So this is with debridement, but this is different. So this is we are doing more of a reparative work. We are trying to understand the pathology and trying to correct the pathology to whatever extent we can do it. And the other good part about this procedure is that it does not hamper in any way in contrast to a future surgery. So if you want to do a uni in this patient in future, you can do it. If you want to do a total in this patient, you can do it without any problem. You have to do it as if you have not done anything. As a primary, you do a uni as a primary uni, you do a total as a primary uni. And same thing, if you want to do other surgeries with this in a primary scenario, like if you are doing ACL surgery and you need to do a root repair, you do a root repair and do your primary ACL finish. If you want to do a HTO and you want to do a root repair, you do a root repair and forget it and do your HTO. So it is like that. So it's a do and forget surgery because it will not come in the way of your future surgeries, right? Whether if you do it at the same point of time or if you want to do it delayed. Because there is no metal part, no metallic implants. It is as good as normal virgin.
So scanogram compulsory for each and every root tab.
Yes, ideally it should be done to rule out a significant virus. So I will still do this in little bit of virus because the other option will be to do either an HTU in this sort of patient. But that I will reserve if my the virus is more than 8 degrees also. Beneath 8 degrees, I will just do primary this procedure for the correction because again, if you are doing an HTO kind of a thing, it will hamper in the way of, because most of these patients sometime in their life may end up in doing a total knee replacement. And if you are doing a HTO, then again, when you are doing a TCAR, it may become an issue. So if there is a significant virus, yes, we will do an HTO along with it. But if the virus is not significant, and the other thing is sometimes some little bit of this virus is a dynamic virus also. Because when the meniscus extrudes out, there is a dynamic reduced space on the middle side. So a little bit of the virus is a dynamic virus also because of the meniscus extrusion.
Because usually we do X-ray or scanogram on the standing position. So
Exactly.
along with the extruded meniscus, there will be definitely, as you said, the dynamic virus component will be there.
Exactly.
So if at all
A significant virus, you will need to do an HTO.
Yes.
If it is not significant virus, you can go ahead this procedure. Before doing this procedure, I do a counseling with each of my patient and I explain that this recovery will not be a complete recovery because this is an early osteoarthritis thing, this is bound to progress. But usually I assure them of around 70% recovery and most of them are usually around there.
Sir, but even if in the virus deformity which is more like more than 8 degree and you are doing HTO, but the primary pathology is there, so you also
You do this with the root, with the HTO.
So first we do this, then we do the HTO.
So there is a big sector or big group of orthopedic surgeons who are doing concomitant root repairs with an HTO. So this is a described procedure, but most of them are doing it with transtibial techniques. But with transtibial technique there is an issue because your tunnel will be in line of your screw. So while leading the screws, you can actually
You can cut it down.
cut the wire. So then it is an issue. So that's why this technique has an advantage. You do this and just forget it and do your HTO. Because the anchor is subchondral. It will not be in between of any of your screws or your cuts or whatever. Okay. Thank you.